The news broke like a thunderclap across a quiet diplomatic landscape. Urgent alerts flashed across Washington, Riyadh, and Abu Dhabi. Breaking news: Israeli Prime Minister's Likud party votes in favor of annexing West Bank settlements. The headlines were stark, the implications enormous. Phones rang in the highest offices of power, from the White House to Middle Eastern palaces. The architecture of American diplomacy in the region suddenly seemed to teeter, threatened by a single provocative move in Jerusalem. For years, the West Bank has been the focal point of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, with both sides claiming it as central to their future. The international community, including the US, has long insisted that the West Bank's fate be decided through negotiations, not unilateral actions. This vote felt like a direct challenge to that principle, sending shockwaves through Middle Eastern politics. In Arab capitals, leaders who had recently normalized relations with Israel felt a sudden chill, their efforts threatened. The urgent question: was this a genuine policy shift by Israel, or political theater for a domestic audience? The world was watching, and the stakes were incredibly high. President Trump had invested heavily in reshaping the Middle East, with the Abraham Accords as his crowning achievement. A cornerstone of these deals was a quiet but firm American promise: Israel would suspend its plans to annex large parts of the West Bank. This assurance was critical for Arab leaders to justify normalizing ties with Israel. If broken, it would signal to allies that American guarantees were unreliable, making future diplomacy far more difficult. The news from Jerusalem put Trump in a difficult position, threatening his narrative of success. Arab leaders who had trusted Trump now needed him to prove their trust was not misplaced. The pressure on the White House was immense. Reacting quickly, Trump's administration launched a full-court press of reassurance. Statements were issued and urgent calls made to Arab capitals. The message: the U.S. position had not changed. Annexation was not part of the plan. Trump understood his legacy as a peacemaker was on the line. He had to show his Arab allies that the U.S. stood by its word. The stability of the region rested on this delicate balance. The world waited for Trump's next move. In Jerusalem, Prime Minister Netanyahu projected calm authority amid the storm. Though the vote came from his own Likud party, his response was carefully measured. He needed to acknowledge his base while avoiding a direct clash with the U.S. In interviews, Netanyahu expressed deep gratitude for American support, especially from Trump. He highlighted the U.S. Embassy move to Jerusalem and recognition of the Golan Heights. By praising Trump, he softened the blow of the controversial vote. Yet Netanyahu also emphasized Israel's independence. Israel is a sovereign nation. We decide our own future. This reassured his domestic base without directly defying Washington. Netanyahu's dual message: the vote reflected party ideology, not imminent government action. He framed it as internal politics, not a betrayal of the Abraham Accords. Calm and firm, he steered Israel through turbulent waters. The world listened closely to every word. Washington acted fast, dispatching a high-level delegation to the region. Their mission was to de-escalate tensions, reaffirm American commitments, and prevent a broader crisis. The team included seasoned diplomats and security experts, signaling U.S. seriousness. In Jerusalem, they met Netanyahu and top advisors, reiterating that unilateral annexation was not an option. They sought assurances that the Knesset vote did not signal a policy shift. Urgency underpinned every meeting. The delegation also met Israeli military and intelligence chiefs, focusing on preventing violence. They stressed restraint and discussed practical steps to maintain calm. Humanitarian issues in Gaza were raised. Recognizing stability requires addressing basic needs. After Israel, the envoys met Palestinian leaders and traveled to Arab capitals, delivering Trump's reassurances. They listened to Arab concerns and reaffirmed U.S. partnership. This was crisis management in action. American leadership on display. The goal was to contain the fire before it spread. The vote that triggered the crisis was not a law, but a non-binding resolution by Likud's Central Committee. This distinction mattered. It expressed party ideology, not official government policy. The resolution called for annexing West Bank settlements, a long-held dream for Israel's right wing. U.S. officials quickly labeled it a political stunt, designed for a domestic audience. They argued it was political theater, not a real policy shift. For Netanyahu, it was a way to appease his base, without provoking an international crisis. U.S. officials used this dynamic to downplay the vote's significance. Even as a stunt, its symbolic power was immense. For Palestinians, it signaled their hopes for statehood were being dismissed. For Arab allies, it was a public embarrassment. The US dismissal was strategic, but anxiety and anger lingered. The episode showed how domestic politics can have explosive international consequences. It's crucial to separate political noise from official policy. Despite dramatic headlines, both the US and Israel stated clearly there would be no West Bank annexation. The Israeli government assured the US and Arab partners that the Likud vote did not change national policy. Commitments made under the Abraham Accords, especially suspending annexation, remained in effect. The West Bank, captured in 1967, is central to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Palestinians see it as the heart of their future state. Annexation would end hopes for a two-state solution. The US position the West Bank's future must be decided through direct negotiations, not unilateral moves. The Likud vote was political posturing, not a change in state policy. Both governments reaffirmed their commitment to diplomacy and cooperation. The political storm was intense, but the fundamental course remained unchanged. The Abraham Accords still stood as the guiding framework. For now, annexation was off the table. As the dust settled, focus shifted to maintaining stability and preventing escalation. The American envoy's visit lowered the diplomatic temperature, securing reassurances from Israel. Washington worked to reinforce these messages with Arab allies, emphasizing the Abraham Accords' strength. The crisis left a scar, exposing underlying tensions in the new Middle East. The path forward continued painstaking diplomacy. US officials pledged to stay engaged, mediating and guaranteeing agreements. The goal: prevent small sparks from becoming diplomatic fires. Building trust is a marathon, not a sprint. The message: official policy is unchanged. No annexation. Peace remains the objective. The incident tested new alliances, but did not break them. Relationships forged through the Abraham Accords held, thanks to swift diplomacy. The episode was a lesson in modern geopolitics and crisis management. For now, diplomacy prevails, and stability remains the prize.